Alright guys, welcome back to this channel. I am Justin Colby and this video is going to be my thoughts on Bitcoin. I've had a lot of people ask about cryptocurrency, but I want to talk specifically about Bitcoin because it has officially topped $40,000. It is crazy, it is mind-numbing. What's going on and what should you be doing about it? Check this video out. What's up guys, this is Justin Colby, your host on this channel, and I talk all things business, real estate, and entrepreneurship. If this is your first time, make sure you're liking this video, smash it, destroy it, make sure to hit that like button. Also, make sure you are subscribing to this channel. Now, as I mentioned on the front of this video, we are going to be talking about Bitcoin. It is the hottest subject, it is the most valuable asset, it is going like crazy, and it is officially topped $40,000. In less than a month, it has actually doubled. Talk about your returns on an investment. This is crazy. I myself am an investor, and let's talk about how this can affect what's going on and just simply my thoughts on all this. Now, let's start about when this started. This started roughly 12 years ago, back in 2009. It has, just as every investment tool has its highs and its lows, but overall, as an actual investment, Bitcoin alone has made a 9 million% return. Did you hear me? 9 million% increase since when it first came to market. Now, if you do any of your own research, which I highly suggest you do, whether it be on CNBC or Wall Street Journal or Forbes or any of the articles that I actually did deeper dives in. In fact, I went pretty deep in articles on CoinDesk.com to really just understand, like, what is this big buzz about? Like, I am not fully understanding myself. So I started doing deeper dives, hopefully to enlighten you a little bit about this. And ultimately, at the end of this video, I want to make sure I give you my thoughts of whether you should be investing, is it already outpriced, etc. Now, some of the experts on these articles are saying that this could get into the $400,000 price point for one single Bitcoin. I'm already completely blown away that it's reached $40,000 for one single Bitcoin. I just don't even understand how it could get up to 400,000. Now, by me saying I don't understand, the one fundamental thing I do understand is Bitcoin is limited. That is a large part of what brings in the attraction to making the investment. There quite literally is a finite number. This has a huge appeal to individuals that really are kind of against big government, right? The Fed can just quite literally print as much money as they want forever at any point. It doesn't matter. We're seeing this real time right now, which I believe is part of this big surge into cryptocurrency as a whole, specifically into Bitcoin. You see, the Fed keeps printing money for these bailouts, for these stimulus packages, and I get it. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, I can tell you, I don't know if I have a better answer if I'm the Fed. If you're liking this so far, make sure you're hitting that like button. I'd really appreciate that. Now, with that said, so cryptocurrency is the digital currency that really at the forefront of this whole thing is meant to be a source of taking payment. Bitcoin specifically. So there's only 21 million out there, right? And so far, roughly 19 million of those coins have been purchased, which leaves roughly 2 million coins left. Again, this is why part one, or not part one, but point one would be the appeal and why people continue to invest heavily in something that is skyrocketing already is because there's just simply a finite amount out there. Many of the articles that I did deep dives in talk that the last couple Bitcoin, once we get that low, is just going to be a very hard thing to find and actually could take years and years and years to find the last handful of Bitcoin. Now, in some of these articles, bank JP Chase actually believes that crypto, specifically Bitcoin, actually is going to top $146,000 here in the very near future. Other articles have said $80,000. I would tell you, I don't know where that lands, but when you go from $20,000 at the start of December to $40,000 at the start of January, you know it's moving fast, and all articles do agree with one thing. It's gonna keep being bullish and moving fast in the upward direction. Now, while that sounds great, if you are a Warren Buffett lover and you listen to the buy low, sell high, you might think we are at an high. And for all intents and purposes, we are at the highest it has ever been. But what happens with investors and individuals like myself and yourself is you start thinking, is now the top? Should I sell now? What should I be doing? Should I be holding it? What I can tell you, and you should do your own research, is there are a lot of banks, there are a lot of financial institutions that are actually very bullish on Bitcoin specifically as the leading cryptocurrency that will play into taking payments. Now, you already have seen PayPal now is taking Bitcoin. That made a big rush into why people are excited about Bitcoin specifically. You've also seen big banks such as Goldman Sachs take a major play into Bitcoin. And when Goldman Sachs and big banks and big institutions like that dive in to take plays in Bitcoin, you can see that there's some fundamental of Bitcoin specifically that is going to be around forever. Now, let me bring up a small con, if you will, about this. The history of Bitcoin has had these incredible highs and also incredibly large drops. Sometimes upward of like 70 and 80% of the value drops right out of that. You most notably would have seen that roughly 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, when it went from a high of 2,000 down to a low of 3,000. Now that is a staggering number to drop down to. Roughly almost 90% of its entire value just dropped. Now, if that happened again today and it was at 40,000 and 90% of its value would bring it all the way down to 4,000. That is a massive drop. Now, will that happen? Is that for sure gonna happen? I can't tell you that, but if you look at the history of Bitcoin itself, dive into those articles and actually start to see where those huge spikes come up and it continues to drop. It has happened over the history, the 12-year history of Bitcoin. Now, as I just mentioned, is that going to happen anytime soon? If you're a Warren Buffett fan, you might be thinking this is absolutely the time that you need to sell. It's at an all-time high, you need to sell. But then you are looking at a lot of these other financial institutions, such as banks, that are continuing to put money into Bitcoin because they believe it'll continue to grow. Now, while all the excitement is happening, there are some major waves coming, but let's talk about two of the biggest cons that I see as an investment model. One is going to be regulation. As a moment in time, regulation continues to come out regarding cryptocurrencies as a whole. Where does that land and what happens? Now, there are reports that any transaction that is over a $10,000 profit is starting to get reported immediately. I know some people are in this space because they see this as an unregulated transaction or investment model. I believe that is very rapidly ending. I know when this first came out again back in 2009, there was very little to no regulation. In fact, there was such little regulation, there was a lot of crime and theft and stealing and fraud that was involved in this, which is kind of 1A of the downside or the con of cryptocurrency. Is there still possibilities for the internet wizards to go in there and somehow steal this currency and create massive chaos in that sense? Absolutely, because everything really is digital, and when it's digital, there is always a way out for them to be able to take that. Now, let's just be honest, when your money's in the bank and someone goes in and steals your money at the bank, it's insured, but all this regulation is very quickly coming upon us, and this is very quickly becoming a regulated platform, or what I should say is a very regulated currency. Anytime you have but institutions like Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan Chase involved in the currency itself, making big wagers on it, investing in it themselves, it has legs, there's a belief behind it, which ultimately means when big banks are involved, that means big money is involved, which means government's gonna get involved, and yes, there will be some more regulations as we move forward. In my opinion, it's gonna come very fast because everyone wants a piece of this. This is the highest profitable investment that we have seen in my lifetime. There's not been a single investment across the span of my 39 years that has a 9 million% 100% increase in value. It is astonishing, it is crazy, but here we are. And when you see numbers like that, you know that there's gonna be more regulation. So that would be a con of this. Currently, regulations are actually limited, but they are increasing. Because of the limitations, it can be a con because there can be high theft and irregularity, and there's a history of that already. The second con, which potentially could be the biggest, is what I've already mentioned. There's high volatility in this market. You have these major swings. Now, does that mean we're on a bubble at $40,000? I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you the history is showing something, right? We need to learn from history. So if we do have major swings, just know that you need to be able to ride out those swings. If I'm an investor, I don't do things for quick flips, except for real estate, by the way. And by the way, if you like real estate or you like cryptocurrency, smash this like button. I'd really appreciate that. Now, I don't use investment in stock market or in cryptocurrency for quick flips. I don't day trade. So when I do invest in Bitcoin, Ethereum, in others, I am not looking to sell that for a profit in the near future. I'm looking to go for the long haul. So if you do look at the high volatility of this, one thing does remain true, that every time it dips to an all-time low, it also surpasses an all-time high. Well, if I ride that wave for as long as I feel comfortable, I always know it's gonna continue to break the all-time highs. Just don't be someone who's looking to capture these high returns or lower returns at a high volume, because your volatility is going to create more volatility in the space, and that ultimately could be harmful for you as well as the entire space. So I don't love the high volatility, but I invest in a way that is a lot more long-term than maybe most. So I'm not as concerned about it, because history has proven if it does drop, a massive drop, it also spikes to a massive high. So as we're all here, the title of this is my thoughts on Bitcoin. I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. I actually do believe that we're gonna get upwards of a six-figure value of one single Bitcoin. And I know that probably is nuts to say. It's nuts for me to say. It's probably nuts to hear. But the reality is, this is actually, especially with big government, especially with what Joe Biden is gonna be doing with the stimulus, especially with what, the government continuing to cut checks for stimulus, a lot of people are finding this as a way to have security within money. And instead of being backed by the dollar, it's backed by a very limited resource called Bitcoin. So if you are thinking about investing in Bitcoin, I personally believe in Bitcoin. I personally am bullish on Bitcoin. Another thing I like about Bitcoin, and or all cryptocurrencies for that matter, you can buy fractions. You don't need $40,000 to go buy a Bitcoin. You could buy $4 worth of Bitcoin. And as long as you can add up those fractions, obviously that's the key there, to be able to have a higher number. Now, do I know where this whole thing's gonna end? Absolutely not. But am I willing to personally invest money into this as an investment, as a part of my investment portfolio? If you have watched any of my other videos, you know I am. And by the way, with that said, make sure you go back and watch a bunch of my other videos. I talk about this a lot because it has been on fire for over 30 days. And so a lot of my videos are about this and the stock market. Tesla, as I'm shooting this video, is going to all-time highs. It's crazy as a moment in time, but that's a good thing. That means our economy is turning, so we like that kind of stuff. So with everything said and done, I am a believer in Bitcoin. I do believe it will be the leading horse in transactional value, meaning you can use Bitcoin to pay for everything. There is some number out there, I can't remember what the number was, but there's some number of companies that are already taking Bitcoin as payment. Obviously PayPal jumping in. I do believe at some point Square and all these other companies will be on board here. This is just an investment model just like anything else. I invest in real estate for one reason. I invest in the stocks for one reason. I invest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency for another reason. It's good to be able to have a spread out portfolio, so if one thing does take a dump, you're not caught holding the bag. Hopefully this helped you. If it did help you, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. If you are really interested in real estate investing, make sure you go over to thescienceoflipping.com. Me or someone on my team would be happy to have a conversation with you, see how we can help you, see how we can put together a strategy for you to make a lot of money, not just in Bitcoin, but also in real estate. I hope this finds you well. See you on the next video. Peace.